Steve Kerr said yesterday that the team lacks, quote, grit, which I thought was interesting. He talked about them just on the floor, needing to play for each other more teamwork, that kind of thing, which I think is a pretty interesting thing for him to say out loud to the media. And obviously there's been, it just hasn't been right on the court this year. Steph Curry wants to play 3 or 4 more years. He wants to win another title. I think you got to do, he's a generational player. I think you trade the farm if you need to for him to give him
Yes.
another good team personally. But the
Mhm.
question is, you got to trade something out. And I don't know, Boog, you played on that team. You were inside the mechanics of that team. Can they trade one of the core players? There's the threesome. You're not trading Steph, obviously, but would you trade
Obviously.
Draymond? Would you trade Clay? Will the Warriors still be the Warriors if they do? Clay's on an expiring deal. What would your move be?
My answer to that is no. You can't trade Clay and you
Okay.
can't trade Draymond. This core group is what made the Warriors the Warriors. And what I mean by that, not only bringing in the 4 championships, but Joe Lacob didn't increase the value of this team because he just bought the team. Those
Right.
3 guys are a huge part of the reason that this team is valued the way it is. And I think it would be a complete slap in the face if you dealt any one of those guys. I think it's just it has at the end of the day with this Warriors team, it has to be they have to leave out with respect. And I think those 3 guys are due that respect to where they could play for one organization and ride off in the sunset when they feel they're ready to do so. Like I said, none of this exists without these 3 guys. And if you sit there and overlook it and act like it didn't happen or they're not the reason for this, that's just complete bullshit. So, no, I don't think anybody should be traded. And I'm going to go out on a limb saying this, but it just
Yeah.
makes sense to me. And I look at the complete picture and not just parts of it. Obviously,
Yeah.
Draymond is in the, headlines for, the antics as of lately. But I still feel like that's been overblown as well because I spoke on it last week or the last show, and
Yeah.
this is something that was enabled by the NBA. They allowed this to happen. They
Yeah.
allowed this behavior. And maybe it was because the Warriors were dominating the league. They were this championship team or contender every single year for the past decade. So maybe that's the case and it's okay then. But my whole thing is when it comes to Draymond, it was enabled before. And now that and when it was enabled before, it was labeled, passionate, the heart of the team.
Right.
This word of looking for grit was never mentioned before. And now that they're in these losing situations, he's the villain. He's the reason that,
Yeah.
they're not finding success. And I think that's bullshit. And on top of that, like I said, I'm going out on a limb saying this. We go back to, the previous summer, we watched Team USA. They struggle. And there's no reason for that. And it's only one common denominator in that equation, and that's Steve Kerr. Maybe it's time
Wow.
for new leadership in this Warriors locker room. Maybe it's time.
Oh.
And the reason I say that, even the Apple iPhone gets an update. You know what I mean? So it's time for the Warriors to update this team. And a new identity, a new system, something to get this core group over the hump. And I was a part of this organization. I know the mood. I know how they carry themselves. It's super laid back. It's super, lackadaisical. It's very nonchalant. And obviously they get their work done. They're professionals and all of these things. But these were the standards that were set in place for this team. And it starts with the leadership, which is Steve Kerr. Now we're looking for some urgency now with this team to get them back in their rhythm. And like I said, maybe it's just time for a new leadership. You know what I mean? And I think that's an option for them. Obviously, I feel like it could still work if they put the right pieces around this core group and they can still make this system that Steve Kerr put in place flourish. But as of right now, that's just not the case. So I think looking for new leadership should be an option that's on the table for this Warriors team.
Look, it's totally fair thing to bring up, 100%. I would quibble a little bit with the Olympic thing, with the Team USA thing. I don't think Team USA did so well in the end because they just didn't have the players. I mean, the team is going to look totally different in Paris this summer. We didn't have our best players there, so
I disagree with that.
I'd hold off on that. But
disagree with that,
look,
Rachel.
You don't think so? Why? You think they should have done with the B team? They should have beaten the rest of the world?
Absolutely. There's no excuse for it. Like we've seen this time and time again. We haven't always gone to these tournaments with the best players in the league, and we've still been successful. So why all of a sudden now is it the players' fault? This is the top league in the world. We can all agree on that. These are some of the most talented young players coming up in the top league in the world. What's the excuse for not bringing it home? There is no excuse.
Well, you have very
These
good
same
teams on the other
guys.
side now. We made the rest of the world good at basketball. It's our own problem. It's our own fault. We brought the dream team over there, and it spawned a
I
whole two
disagree.
generations of players at this point. And the other teams are good. I don't know. When Austin Reeves is one of your top players, is that the
That's the
best team to go
problem.
into international competition?
And that's the problem. Austin Reeves he shouldn't have been the focal point of the Team USA team. It should have been Anthony
Got it.
Edwards. That's the point.
Right.
And
Right.
there's one common denominator that made that an okay thing, and that's Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr put Austin Reeves in the position to lead Team USA. That's foolishness.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. Some decisions just aren't right now, and that's one of them. Like I disagree
Go
with
ahead.
that. I disagree.
Okay.
With it.
All right.
There's
I was
no
just going to
reason
say,
for
like
Team
with the
USA not to have
Warriors,
won.
this is a team that was doing well under Mark Jackson, right? You had Steph and Clay really start to come into their own. He's the one who decided to put them in the positions they were in, play them together, really, give them the confidence and power to do what
He
they
found their
did.
confidence. Yes.
And yet they did make a change, right? So there is precedent within that organization to, even when it's not a disaster, even when there's a coach that is well liked. I mean, Steph did not want Mark Jackson to be let go. He's said that many times, including to me in an interview this fall. Like he had very skeptical about bringing Steve Kerr in. He liked the way Mark Jackson ran the team, and it turned out to work out really well. Obviously, historically well. So what you're saying is not off the table, I don't think at all. The idea that this organization is not afraid to make that kind of level of change, even when it's not a disaster, right? That they might just say, great, it might just be time for a new voice. I think that the biggest thing they have to do is have a conversation with Klay Thompson, because his deal is up this summer. And he is, there's been noise from, around him, from his agent, whatever, that he doesn't want to take that much of a pay cut of what he could get on the open market. And the Warriors cannot pay him what his full value would be on the open market with all the other financial commitments they have on that roster. So I just think you have to know, everyone knows what the numbers are. So you have to know from Klay, are you walking out the door anyway in 3 months? And if he says yes, then you got to consider dealing him. Just talking about this with Toronto, with some of their players, if, he indicates, if the agent indicates, and, you're not supposed to be able to negotiate with your own players right now. Sorry, NBA rules people, but I'm not a fan of tampering rules anyway. I think they're kind of stupid because players are smart and they know what's out there already. So it's not like some team is going to be like, "Hey, did you know that we have a need at center and we have this much money on the books?" Obviously, they know that already. But that's beside the point. Tampering within your own team. I mean, come on. I have no problem with the Warriors having a conversation with Klay and saying, what are your plans? Very quietly if they have to. But I just think that I think that's the big question mark, right? Because if he's going to leave anyway, I think you got to deal him. And then you're not really disrespecting him because he was going to walk out the door anyway. If he wants to stay for, a little less money, or it might end up being a chunk of less money than he could get out in the world, then maybe you do keep them together. But it is a question. I mean, do you do the respect? Do you do the, hey, we got to keep this core and possibly cost Steph Curry another title? Or do you say, great, we got to change. And, Steph is the guy who's going to be here for 20 years. But, look at Kobe's teams. There were some big changes to that roster. The biggest with Shaq, between different championships. So maybe they have to do something. I don't know. I think it's a huge question. I don't think Steph plays as well without Draymond. We've seen that since he's been off the court. And I'm not sure how much value Draymond has on the trade market right now anyway. But Klay to me is the question mark. And the questions you raise about Steve are valid. I'll have to see what they want to do there. I don't see them doing anything mid-season though. So that's
not
kind of another,
season, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting problem going on there with a marquee team. So I don't know. Chris Paul, obviously, Andrew Wiggins, question marks there too. We'll see.